Welcome everybody to another Motocross Action video. Today we're testing the 2024 Husqvarna FC250. The FC250 retails for $10,299, the most expensive 250F in the class. On the scales, this thing weighs 224 pounds. FC250 is a beautiful bike. For 2024, minor updates. We'll talk about those after Connor Stiers hits the track. Good day of shaking down the 2024 FC250 from Husqvarna. This bike only received minor changes for the 2024 model season. They come in the suspension settings, fork and shock. Minor suspension setting changes, very similar on the track though. The clicker and air pressure recommendations are still the same. However, the clicker adjustments, they have changed now for 2024 on KTM Husqvarna gas with this WP exact air forks and with their rear shock. Basically what they were trying to do is make each click make less of an adjustment. That way you can fine tune your suspension settings to exactly what you want. Before KTM and Husqvarna, they thought that the suspension settings were too easy to go far off to the left or to the right. Now they want you to be able to fine tune it and stay closer to their base settings, which they recommend on their stock motorcycles. This FC250, very comfortable on the track. We had Connor Stiers rip it today, and then I jumped on it after him, after we shot some video and photos, and honestly, I really like the Husky 250. Other changes, graphics obviously are different for 2024, but this is my favorite update. The gripper seat on the Husqvarna FC250. I always say it's like free money. I love gripper seats. If you watch any of our videos or read any of the articles that I write, I'm always talking about getting more grip. Husqvarna gave you some free grip for 2024 on this bike. Glossing over some of the differences that make the Husky different from its KTM brother. First, the seal head on the shock is slightly longer to limit the travel. Also, the linkage has a revised ratio to make the rear end shorter on this bike. It's actually 1 inch shorter from seat to the ground than it is compared to Husqvarna and gas. Also, the forks are 10 mil shorter as well to balance out the chassis and make it lower to the ground, which is better for cornering, and honestly something that we push towards our novice and vet test riders, something that they really love. Other differences, pro taper handlebars. These come stock on Husqvarna. They're neck and handlebars on KTM, and they're also neck and handlebars on gas. Gas are a little bit taller than KTM, and these are a little bit lower than KTM and also a little bit wider as well. I personally really appreciate the stock handlebars on the Husqvarna, and this is actually what I used when I raced pro back in 2016, 17, and 18. Lastly, for the differences, the Superman seat grab handles right here are closed off, as you can see. No air getting through, no hands getting through. KTM all the way through, completely open, giving more air to the airbox, also giving you more throttle response on the track, something that we always appreciate. However, on the dyno, Husqvarna actually dynos better usually, scoring more horsepower most of the time than KTM does, but on the track you can feel that difference. Talking about horsepower, because this bike barely changed from last year, the engine is exactly the same. We know that this engine hits 44.7 horsepower on our dyno, also 21 pound-feet of torque. Second in the class, right behind the KTM, which hits 45 horsepower on the dyno. This thing is a high revving machine. It gets the best power high in the RPMs, while Yamaha, Honda, and Suzuki, more exciting down low. KTM, Husqvarna, and also gas and Kawasaki, more high revving 250F engines that you really have to let it scream to get the most power out of them. Talking more about the power difference between this bike and the other 250Fs in the class, we brought out the 24 gas MC250F and also the Honda CRF 250 to compare with it. Like I mentioned, that Honda's a little more easy to ride, a little more exciting off the bottom end. We had 5 different test riders hopping on all 3 bikes today. It's almost like a mini shootout today here at Glen Helen. Josh Hawley, he's one of our novice level test riders. He thought the Honda was the best and the easiest to ride for him because it was more responsive coming out of the corners, easier to get into the power. Even though that thing lacks 3 horsepower on top, it still is easy to ride and comfortable for him in the novice level range. However, the rest of us, Stapleton, Josh Fout, Sean Bushnell, and myself, we all felt the Husqvarna was much faster, but you have to know how to ride it. You have to rev higher into the RPMs, and that's where you find the power on this bike. Honda was definitely lacking there. Today, Husqvarna wide open down the straightaways. One big question we always get asked on the FC250 is the 1-inch lower seat height a placebo, or does it actually make a difference on the track? I'm here to tell you guys it makes a big difference, especially when you ride the bikes back to back. Sure, I can understand if you buy a Husqvarna and you only ride that bike, how this would feel normal to you. It won't feel low, and it just feels like a standard motocross bike. But if you get to be an MX8 test rider, or if you just have buddies you can hop on their Husqvarna, KTM, and gas and ride them back to back, you'll quickly realize the difference. Husqvarna feels quite a bit lower on the track, which is a good thing for novice riders, for vet riders, and also for gaining traction on hard pack slick sections. I personally love the lowered chassis when I'm trying to find a rut, when I'm trying to get traction and I'm trying to carve a corner and be ultra precise. However, when the track is deep, rutted, bumpy, and I'm hitting some bigger jumps, I prefer the KTM platform for more hold up in the suspension and a little bit extra travel in the forks and the shock. A couple things to keep your eye on. If you do buy a Husky FC250, spokes, always keep an eye on them, especially when you're breaking in the wheels. Over time, they'll get set in and they won't come loose as easily. However, the first, I'd say 10 hours, you need to check them every time you're out on the track, especially the first 2, 3, 4 hours. That's when they're gonna be loose. Also, sprocket bolts, they don't come loose very often. However, these are some of the most important safety items to check every time you ride. Always check your sprocket bolts because they have come loose before, and that's something we always warn people. Next, WP Exact air forks. Now that means no springs in these forks. Your air is your spring rate, and that means you need to check your spring rate because air pressure goes up and down throughout the day. If you drive to a higher elevation track, you're gonna build air pressure. If you let your forks sit out in the sun, you're gonna build air pressure just like you do with your tires. So like you do with your tires, check it in the morning when you get to the track, set it. If your tires are sitting out in the sun, they're gonna raise in pressure. Check the pressure again in your tires. Same thing with your WP Exact air forks. Schrader valve up here, we use a Works Connection Easy Fill adapter on our WP pumps to easily connect to the WP Exact air forks. Also, these little screws up here, bleed them regularly as they build up pressure as well and will make your forks work a lot smoother on the track. 2 more things I want to touch on with the handling of your FC250. This frame is brand new for 2023, carries over for 2024, and it takes some time to break in. We recommend at least 10 hours on your frame. We also recommend about 5 hours on your air forks to let it all set in, break in, get a little more comfortable, be a little more plush on the track. Also, this cover right here, this is covering your WP shock. They came up with some new concepts last year where you can, this is honestly a pain. This is an afterthought, unfortunately, from Husqvarna. That's hard to get off and hard to put back on, and the only reason this is on there is because of the adjustable by hand high speed and low speed clickers on your shock. Yes, it's super easy to make adjustments here with your low speed, super easy to adjust compression as well. However, if you leave this off, there is a chance that you'll rub it with your knee pads and your knee braces and change your suspension on the track. That's not good, and that's why they got this afterthought of a plastic piece. So like I mentioned, we rode 3 different 250Fs today, comparing them all. Depending on the time you're watching this video, our shootout might be already out or coming very, very soon. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell button to get notified whenever we release new videos. FC250 ranks high on our list, and we got some other bikes that have changed slightly and other bikes that have changed a lot, including the Yamaha YZ250F. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope to see you in the next one.